Good evening. I'd like to call the City of Menasha Budget Review Session meeting to order. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll fix that.
Oh, that's fine. Could I have the roll, please?
Alderman Langdon.
Here.
Alderman Schmidt.
Here.
Alderman Tom Grady.
Here.
Alderman Ted Grady.
Here.
Alderman Rapella.
Here.
Alderman Nichols.
Here.
Alderman Sevenick.
Here.
All are present with the absence of Alderman Taylor.
The first item on the agenda this evening is public comments on any matter listed on the agenda. I do not see anyone from the public here this evening. So we'll move on to the budgets that we have for tonight. We have the Public Works and the Park and Recreation budgets. And Director Youngworth, if you'd like to start.
Thank you, Mayor. Welcome, good evening. This is my first budget presentation with all of you, so be easy on me if you can. But we've got our whole group here today. Me, Corey Gordon, our Deputy Director of Engineering, Thad, our Deputy Director of Municipal Operations, and Travis McDonald is also here, our Public Works Parks Superintendent. You don't get to see him as frequently as the other two, but he's here for support tonight. Jumping right in here, with our 2021 street construction, just kind of wanted to give you a recap of and highlights of some of the items that we did tackle this year. We completed paving on Nicolay Boulevard, 8th Street, Milwaukee Street, Martin Street, Lisbon Avenue, Jefferson, Georgetown, Fountain Way, Kelsey Brook Court, as you can see a number of them, Clover, Eden, Whisper Falls Lane, Whisper Falls Court, and Villa Way. Here are just a few of the pictures of those completed projects. So if you drive around out there, you can drive quite a bit and see a lot of new pavement down there. So did turn out very nice. There was some painting associated with it as well, and definitely a good end product and well needed in that area. Yes, please. At any point.
Yeah,
don't
I'd just like to
hesitate.
make a quick comment. I live in the middle of the 700 block of Warsaw. 8th Street is just fantastic. So please tell everybody that who worked on it that it is just fantastic. Thank you.
Will do. Thank you. And we appreciate that hearing that because there is a lot involved from design all the way to inspection at the end, and it's good to hear everything turned out well. Continuing on, I believe I advanced the slide here. Temporary asphalt binder course was completed on Grassy Meadow Lane, Bree Court, Canvasback Drive, Signet Court, and Snow Goose Lane. We also continued our crack filling program to extend pavement life and did get quite a bit of extra done, I think, beyond what we had planned. So that was a good thing. That material ended up getting stretched and we were able to do more roads than we anticipated with our $75,000 that we'd budgeted. We also reconstructed Baldwin Street. Here's a picture from the entry to the Public Works facility on the curve from 4th to Baldwin. That also, I think, turned out very nice in that area. Just that whole facade and entry into the Public Works facility really turned out pretty nice. And Southfield Drive was also resurfaced. As you can see here, that one was a mill and overlay. So for trails and sidewalks, we completed the State Highway 114 trail connection from State Highway 114 to Community Way, right along the new apartments. Was anticipated to be asphalt. There were some things put down with gravel from the contractor of the development, so we made some modifications and still ended up coming in reasonably and were able to do a concrete path there. We continued the sidewalk replacement program, actually did a significant amount of sidewalk replacement this year, and kind of a little last minute add-on was some extensive replacements along Oneida Street. We had received a number of complaints, and Fox Crossing did fund their portion of it, so it wasn't all ours, but we did the work and they funded a portion of it and kind of cleaned that whole area up quite nicely. I believe that was from 114 to Manitowoc. Broad Street Alley, pedestrian crossing improvements. I'm sure you've seen this as you've been downtown. There was a crosswalk repair, curb and gutter, and some asphalt pavement associated with that work. And we are still not quite complete on it yet, but the Hawk Pedestrian crossing, we are on Midway Road. The concrete work is done, painting is done, everything has been ordered. We're actually looking at a shipment date of the system here coming up shortly. So that's really the only item is, as you know, with materials right now, things are delayed. So we ordered back in August, I believe, and are just looking at getting it shipped here soon. I actually sent an email them today to follow up to see when we're going to get that. But I know the school is very interested in seeing that come to completion. So, and that was a good project, a good cooperative effort with the county, Fox Crossing, the school district, and us. It was a four-way split. As you know, the Public Works facility was completed, and we also added the rooftop solar photovoltaic system. There's a nice drone photo of that here. You can see the layout on it. We do have active updates on our website as well that you can take a look at and see what we're getting for energy out of that system. The cold storage building is not quite yet complete, but very close. So that's going to be finishing up here, I imagine, by the end of the year. Salt shed, a new salt shed roof was installed. And as I said, the Public Works facility is complete. And this is an old photo versus a new photo. So you can kind of see the comparison there. And we got a very, very nice end product. So jumping into the budget. This is just an overview of the Public Works portion of the general fund and the recycling fund. A fair amount of numbers here, but just to kind of give an overall showing of what the difference is from 2021 to 2022. Roughly $140,000 reduction in the Public Works general fund. That is largely due to, we had previously had a road in our street construction portion of our projects taken from the general fund, which we are now going to be doing in borrowing. So that's more or less what the difference is there. And the recycling fund, we are slightly down as well. And I'll be going through it piece by piece as we move along. So you'll see what bit by bit some of those changes are. And then this pie chart is just to kind of show you what the breakdowns of the Public Works portion of our general fund is. So, you know, significant majority is refuse collection and disposal, street construction, and you can see the remaining breakdowns from there. But just to give you a representative of all of the items that we are doing under the operations general fund.
And just to follow up on why that one street was pulled out of the general fund, it was because of levy limits. So we're at $4,000, levy limits.
Levy limits.
So we were not able to fit that within our general fund because of the levy limit. Otherwise, we would have left it there.
Correct. And as, you know, next year we'll see what that looks like and we'll try to get that back in there. But for now, that is the modification that was made. Okay, engineering, pages 84 and 85. No major significant changes here. We are seeing a slight overall reduction. We did have some position changes. So health actually went down, staff, you know, certain staff going into positions, actually me, I think is a good chunk of that, not taking insurance, so that brings that down a fair amount. So that's probably the major difference there. And then just to point out that we are purchasing one computer for our engineering staff. We had done 3 PC replacements last year. So just need to do one more for our admin assistant. And there is a split there, which we've carried through years past, between Storm and the general fund. But that is for that individual. No other major changes in that account. And I don't know if you want me to stop as we go into each account, or I can maybe just pause and feel free to jump in if you have questions on each of these. Street construction, pages 86 to 89. We are maintaining our crack filling at $75,000. We, like I said, stretched out that amount quite significantly this year, and we're hoping to do the same again next year. What we do is we put together a list that we plan to tackle. We have a backlog list, so if the contractor can get through it, we have options set up for them to jump in and do additional work. So we basically get to that $75,000 regardless. Small projects, there were no significant changes here in the dollar amount. We just complete select street repairs to extend the life of our roads. Some of the things that we're looking at doing here moving into next year is increasing our concrete pavement repairs. That's one thing we as a team have discussed that we need to draw more attention to. So we're hoping, the plan is to start on 9th next year and do a portion from potentially Taco to Racine. So we'll look at our budget and see how much we have to do concrete patches. But that's what we're going to tackle for this year. Moving ahead, we might look at doing more mill and overlays. That'll kind of change as these repairs are needed in certain areas. So we are planning on increasing our amount of repairs that we are doing moving ahead. No significant changes in the supplies. Go ahead.
Question on the small projects, considering there's $20,000 in there for last year and this year, and then in 2020, we spent $87. Is this like a catch-all account, or can you educate me a little bit on that? Or I'm just looking for if that isn't even needed.
This is one of the accounts that we used for our mill and overlays when we did the section of Racine Street. And last year, we did not get to anything last year on that. And Corey was going to carry that money over for what was that, Plank by the railroad tracks by Manderfields
Yeah.
for that mill and overlay for next year.
Okay, so it's kind of
And
a
then-
carryover type thing.
Correct. So we'll
Okay.
carry that $20,000 over for that mill and overlay, and then we'll still have the money left in there for our concrete repairs.
Okay, thanks, Thad.
Okay. One item also to note with this is that our year-end projection is a bit lower. We do plan on carrying over our crusher rental. We did not rent the crusher this year. We're going to it's basically going to be a bigger volume. We're going to use the same amount of money, but we're hoping to get a quote-unquote bulk rate because we're doing 2 years in one. So that amount will be carried over and added to the 2022, and we're going to do a larger volume of crushing at one time rather than in the 2 years. So that is just the reason for the year-end projection looking lower. We already pointed this out due to the levy with the construction. You're seeing nothing in there because that was moved into the general obligation debt. So just wanted to point that out and reiterate that that's the reason for that change in the construction portion of this account. Snow and, oh. Yes, yep. 8202. I do have a capital improvements slide towards the end, and I will point out what we're going to be doing there. Snow and ice removal, pages 90 and 91. We have in tools and equipment traditionally blades and brooms, which there are no significant changes to the dollar amount there. One of the noteworthy changes is in salt. It did increase in price from $77 to $79.41 per ton. So that's the most noteworthy change in that account. Street signs and markings are pages 92 to 94. In account 2010, pavement maintenance, we did reduce the traffic line painting from $10,000 down to $8,000. We do outsource that to Calumet County. One of the reasons for that change was that we actually supplied one of our staff members to go along with them. So then we don't have to pay for an additional person for labor with what they're doing. So we're able to supply one of our staff members to do that work alongside them. We've saved ourselves costs. Are actually coming in lower than the $10,000 we had budgeted last year. So recognizing that, we're actually reducing for this year our request. Can you answer? Are they just in Calumet County?
No.
They branch over. I don't think Winnebago County.
They were doing all of our long stretches. They were on 47 last year, a couple years
I think
back.
they were in.
And the long sections of the streets that they've been painting, doesn't matter what county it was in, they were doing it for us.
2102 account engineering so we are budgeting $20,000 for this study, keeping in mind that $18,000 of that's going to be offset with grant funds. It is the SISP standalone grant program that has been applied for, and we were approved for that. We did also budget for the upgrades for the actual work in 2023. So I believe it's $120,000 in totality for this. We are only paying 10% of that, so we will be expending only $12,000 of the 120 that this project will cost. Account 3015, tools and equipment. Cones, barrels, and grinder teeth is the total here. Tablet for sign shop. I think the only notable addition here is the tablet for the sign shop. Sidewalks and crosswalks are on pages 96 to 98. Do you want me to go back? Sure.
On page 92, it references the installation of an audible pedestrian system at 3rd Street and De Pere and at Main and Taco. Can you tell me what an audible pedestrian system is?
Certainly. And it was pointed out under this section, just to note that these are systems that we are looking into. It is budgeted again under the 470 account, so that will be in our borrowing. But what those items are, there's a variety, and our traffic engineer is looking into some varieties, has been getting information from TAPCO on what we can install. But the two locations that we were looking at were Main and Taco and 3rd and De Pere. There was a request made by a disabled person through the state, so they're working with an agency through the state who put in the formal request for these in these two locations. So basically what they are, and you can go anywhere from a constant beep to a beep when the button gets pushed. So there is a variety, but there is a hearing aspect to it, I suppose you would say, the sound aspect that we do need to consider. We don't want something that's going to be continually beeping right at people's residences. So that's a consideration we will be taking into account when we're looking at these and pursuing options. We have not set ourselves on one specific option, but that is the general gist of what they are. It's improving the crossing for disabled individuals.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Sidewalks and crosswalks, pages 96 to 98. In the 3018 supplies, the concrete and rebar did not change, but I did want to point it out as being one of the items that is included under that. What did change is detector plates. We previously had budgeted $8,000, and we are increasing by double for that. We have exceedingly been utilizing more of them. Costs are going up, so we've recognized that we need to increase this budget to accommodate. Previously, it was being taken out of other accounts to make up for that increase. So at this point in time, we are increasing to match what we have indeed been expending. 8202 construction, again reiterating that due to the levy, we are not funding the sidewalks for the street construction portion under the general fund. It'll be under the general obligation debt. And that will be reviewed later on. Street lighting, pages 100 and 101. This year, one of the items that we did complete was a decorative light installation on Villa Way at Lake Park. And we are planning to do some decorative light replacement along with the Main Street portion of the road construction that's going to be attached to the roundabout for the Racine project. So this is more or less an extension of that project, but we are having to go out for bid for that project ourselves. So you will see that in the CIP portion of the slides later on, the Main Street portion of that project. It's not included specifically in this account, it's wrapped into there. But that is what, wanted to point it out that there will be some decorative light replacement planned just due to the configuration of the road. Pages 102 to 104 is parking lots, and there really is nothing noteworthy of changes from 2021 to 2022 in the parking lots budget. Refuse collection, pages 106 to 108. The noteworthy item here under 2501, other municipalities, would be that the tipping fees have increased. And I did write it down, if you bear with me. Last year was $43, and this year it is $45. So it has increased $2 per ton, and we're at about 6,300 ton. The licensing fee did not change, but did want to point it out that it is another portion of that sub-account. 3015 tools and equipment, there were also no significant changes from 2021 to 2022. Weed control, pages, yes.
I'm looking at, the wages on page 107, and I see that the full-time employees went down from 4.49 to 4.33. Is this just an allocation of how we're spreading the wages to get to that 221,000 for next year?
Yes, yes. So we budget, we were just having a discussion.
So I'll see offsets in other departments with wages going down, right? No, going down for next year, because if this went up to 221, other pages within the public works should go down if they're reallocating bodies different ways.
Right, there was some of that. We had some retirements, there were position changes. So depending on the account, I mean, that's the thing, is each individual has their certain splits with where, where they're placed. And depending upon who moves into that spot with whether they're carrying health insurance or whether they're at a more entry-level position versus a retirement-level position. So we've seen some ups and downs with wages, certainly, and health, and basically all the distributions that are related to personnel in our accounts have
Ted, you're
changed.
asking about the .13 FTEs that refuse collection is going
Yes.
up, right?
Right.
Oh, you're talking in the
So we-
summary portion. My
Yes.
apologies.
Yep,
Okay.
so we
Yep,
added a little bit, we're not adding any people. if
But
that's
it's
your
not
question
going
is.
up.
okay.
In 2021, it was 4.49, and then it goes to 4.33
you're
in
right.
'22.
It's going
it's-
the other way. It's
It's
slightly
actually a
less.
slight reduction from '21 to '22.
Okay, so that's in summer help? That, the only portion that changed in that summary is the summer help, which I believe we are reducing. You might want to answer that one for me, Thad. Summer help reductions in that account. I think we're moving more into parks, is what I believe we're doing, is moving more summer help into parks and out of public works, is the
Yeah,
intent there.
Corey, if I'm looking at account 10.01 on page 107, the very first line is wages. 2021, you spent $213,000. You're budgeting $221,000. That didn't go down, that went up. So I'm confused as to the answer. Okay, that makes,
And we're looking at we did include in the increases, or in 2021 to 2022, the potential 2% cost of living adjustment.
okay.
So that.
Oh, that makes sense.
That
Okay.
could be that, I don't know what the differential is.
No, that's fine.
But that
Okay.
could be that 2%.
Okay, thank you.
Pardon? It's not even 2%. But more or less, that might be some of the differences you're seeing as well in the wages, is we did include the potential cost of living.
Continuing with that line, 1001, for the 2021 year-end projection is listed at 117,684, which is a significant difference from what was budgeted for 2021.
So the total in the year-end projection for the 1016 account is a combination of the 1016 account and 1017 account. So you almost have to add in the 1016, 1001 on page 107, the 117,664 plus the next page, which would be 108. It's account 100-1017 wages. You have to add that 73,640. So we budget out of the 1016, but there's a split there in the expenditures between the 1016 and 1017.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Yes. Okay, any other questions with the refuse collection? Okay. All right, pages 110 and 111 would be weed control. And we did not have any noteworthy changes here in the account. Lift, so that concludes the general portion. We'll jump into lift bridges then. That's going to be pages 196 and 197. And that's under the excuse me, not that section. It's under Culture and Recreation tab. And I believe it's the last page in that section, if that helps. So on 196 and 197 for lift bridges, the wages did increase. We are seeing that. We did have as you recall, back in July, we did have a wage rate adjustment approved in July. I think it was $1.50 or $2 per hour. I don't recall offhand, but that was one of the major changes there. And we are not seeing any other significant changes, but with the bridge completion for Racine, we might be seeing some changes here in 2023. So we will be monitoring, and we'll be making the changes in the next budget cycle if we need to for those changes that are occurring or anticipated that they might occur. Moving on to recycling. That is going to be under special revenue funds. Pages 226 and 227. And you're seeing some changes here again with the wages due to position changes. Some people not taking insurance, others are. Higher seniority people moving around, retirements, what have you. So we are seeing some changes and adjustments in wages and health. I believe they, generally speaking, balanced each other out, fortunately, between these. And then to point out the Section 2501, other municipalities, there was a fairly significant reduction in the tipping fees for recycling. I believe it went from $15 to $5 a ton. So we're seeing some good numbers coming in with that. Yeah, we'll pages 228 and 229. Basically, this account is the 44% of the overall yard waste cost, but there are no significant changes associated with this account. Recycling and appliances, recycling of appliances is 230 and 231, and there are also no significant changes noted in that account. All right, we're going to move into our utility funds now. So that's going to be under your enterprise funds tab. The sewer utility is Fund 601. $241 to $246 will be this section. So just to kind of give you a general overview of the changes, now we're up in the utility funds. Wanted to point that out, and that's predominantly due to some of the projects that we have occurring. So in the sewer utility fund, the biggest project is going to be the sanitary sewer relays for the roundabouts as a part of the Racine Bridge project. And in the stormwater utility fund, you're seeing this significant increase because of the Bryn. The Bryn project is actually a very large portion of this fund, which has been planned for some time.
Of the sewer utility fund, you're talking Racine Street Bridge area, are those connected to outlining areas that eventually go through our system? Or is it separate?
For the sanitary sewer,
Yes.
Corey?
You're asking
Are they coming
other
from,
districts?
not
Not these
not
sections.
districts, but other
Municipalities.
municipalities?
No other municipalities flow
Well,
through
that's-
these sections.
That's not a shared.
It's not
okay.
a shared, these sections are not shared.
All right, thank you.
Okay,
Just
go ahead.
One comment on that. Part of that is compensable, so we will be refunded for some of that with the Racine Street. There are some stuffs that is considered a takings. So I forget the exact number, but there is some refundable stuff there.
Okay, continuing on in the sewer utility fund, in the 2102 section, the TV inspection, sewer monitoring, and diggers hotline, those items did not change monetarily from last year to this year. The one thing that we did add in here was the CMOM, the Capacity Management Operations and Maintenance Program. We did have a CMOM report created a handful or so of years ago, and we're required to have those reviewed and updated every handful of years again. So we're at that point that we need to be looking at this, and we will be hiring a consultant to do this work. So that is why this is included here. This is not an annual charge. Again, this is when that permit compliance is due.
The lift station, is that pertaining to stormwater?
No, that is the sanitary
That is?
lift
Okay.
station.
Then my same question, is that coming from other directions?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Account 2405, small projects. Just wanted to point out the items that are included in this monetarily again, none of those amounts changed. So we will be continuing our I&I home grant program, miscellaneous manhole and sewer repairs, and any lateral repairs associated with reconstruction that are required for any failing laterals, sanitary laterals. And then we are splitting the cost between the sanitary and stormwater utilities for a sewer truck portable device, so that they're not having to track all of their cleaning and whatever they do in the field, not having to track it on paper anymore. They're able to do it right in a spreadsheet, update it, hopefully doing some time savings down the road. Depending on how we advance some of our programs in the future, we'll be able to incorporate some more things for them. But they'll have on hand our mapping records and should hopefully create some efficiencies with our staff out in the sewer truck. Section 3015, tools and equipment. We have the jet head in there, and there is an overall reduction because we did purchase last year a new GPS, and we obviously are not having that in this year. And that is distributed between a few other funds, the GPS equipment, so you'll see that, I believe, in the stormwater utility as well. But overall, there's a reduction because that has been already purchased. Section 3018, supplies. We did increase, the only portion of this was increased $2,500 in the casting, pipe, and stone because casting costs have gone up. And it's been a trend. We're seeing material prices climb, and we are adjusting for those changes. 8202 construction, I did already point out the sanitary relays plan for Racine, and that's going to be both at Main Street and at Annett. So those are in two different locations, not just one of those roads. Lateral repairs on street projects, $50,000, and we do have some spot repair on the sanitary sewer on 8th Street planned as well and have included in this fund.
Is that 8th Street east? Okay,
East of De Pere?
yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Corey. All right, storm, page 249. So we're moving out of the sanitary and into the stormwater utility fund. The engineering portion, sub-account 3012, computer and technology. There is a split here, as I mentioned earlier, with the PC for our staff. Last year, we did replace 3 of them. This is just the other contribution of that share distribution. 3015, tools and equipment. Again, reiterating the reduction due to the GPS survey equipment purchase. We don't have that this year. That account has gone down. 3018, supplies, we did increase slightly to accommodate for the MS4 permit compliance activities that we're needing to do. Back in March, I believe it was, we did present the MS4 permit to you and outlined that we need to do a bit more public education and outreach, which we have been working on and are hoping to increase as we move ahead. Street construction, concrete and supplies and crushing stone. Just to point out that that's what we are funding under those. There is no change from the previous year on the monetary values there. The 8202 account construction would be the curb and gutter portions of the street projects. And we will go over the street projects in the capital improvements section, but it's the totality of all of those projects added up into this total of 240. Which again, I will break down as we move ahead. Page 250 to 251 would be street cleaning under the stormwater utility. There are no significant changes there either, nor are there any changes under the snow and ice removal on page 200, or 253 rather. Storm sewers and drains. There's a lot included under here, so we do have a fair amount of items that are going to be changing. There is no change in the Diggers Hotline sewer televising, that there are no adjustments there. We did add the design for the 9th Street Detention Pond, which there's still a lot of information we need to work through on that. The construction would not follow for another year after. The citywide stormwater modeling, so we did receive a grant officially, the Urban Non-Point Source Planning Grant through the DNR. And they are funding $85,000 of the $172,950 total. That's to upgrade our citywide stormwater modeling. We do need to draft a stormwater pollution prevention plan for the Public Works facility. And we're looking at some other things depending on how much we have left for funding. Still yet to be determined. We may or may not be able to wrap some of that into the 9th Street pond design, so we might be able to offset some of that pond design with that funding as well. So some of those items are still to be determined, but just to give you the fact that we did get a significant grant, and that is actually the maximum amount that you can get with that grant.
My question, thank you, Mayor. My question is back to the 9th Street detention pond design. Did we not already have a detention pond design and then paid for that, and now you're redesigning it because of the house that's not part of the old design
No, we never had an official design. We had
concept?
the concept and the rough numbers ran for that concept. The actual design of the slopes and the pond, whether it's open or underground, things of that nature, that has not been done, no.
All right, thanks.
Small projects, we have our rear lot drainage program and miscellaneous repairs. We did increase the rear lot drainage program. We noticed that it was a revenue offset, so it's a 50-50 split with property owners. We didn't capture that previously, it appeared, so basically we would only be funding 15,000 of the 30, so we wouldn't really be expending that much. But we've captured the revenue, so that's why it looks different than it has in the past. Doesn't mean we're spending any more than we had previously. But did want to point out that change there. Section 3012, computer and technology. Again, this is that 50% split with the device for our sewer truck that I pointed out under the sewer utility. 8202 construction, Broad Street pipe burst, basically carrying this over from last year, planned to complete this year. The storm manhole inlet pipe repairs amount did not change. Here is where you can see a significant change in our stormwater utility is the $1,000,000 and some odd dollars for the Bryn underground pond. So that's why that account increased pretty significantly. And then we do have the sewer related costs for any work needed for 8th Airport Pleasant Lane road projects that we are intending to do, which again, we'll look at the CIP in one of the later slides. Storm yard waste, no significant changes. The overall yard waste costs share is 56% in the stormwater utility portion of the entirety of the yard wastes. All right, moving into city garage fund, so that's going to start on page 258. Number breakdowns start on 260. But this is just to give you an overview of some of the changes. We are slightly increased in the Public Works facility. As I get into the next slide, I will outline the reasons why there is an increase there. And our street equipment also went up slightly, but just kind of wanted to point out and show you the changes from last year to this year. So moving into the Public Works facility, a very large chunk of this increase, this $90,000 total increase, would be contracted cleaning and utilities, electricity, heat, water, sewer. We have a facility that's twice the size that it was before, so we're seeing overall increases in these utilities. Now, keeping in mind, we do have solar, so we're hoping at some point in time we're going to see some benefit coming back from that. But this year we're projecting quite high on our electricity mostly. We are going to be paying back the loan. I believe it's a 10-year loan through WPPI, a 10-year 0% loan. And then after that, obviously, we're hoping everything else is revenue from there on the solar. But that is a very large majority of the increase here is those services. We did have to add under Section 2403 buildings, the ACC planned service agreement, $5,000, and that's for the ductwork that we, from what I was explained, the ductwork on the new facility has to be and rooftop units. So it has to be maintained and monitored different than we've had in the past. Section 3012, computer and technology, we have 2 PCs planned to be replaced. One is actually failing as we speak, and we're hoping to limp it by through the end of the year. So one of them is pretty detrimental that we need to replace for our sign shop. And the other one obviously needs it as well, but that one is very close to failing. We did have an increase in fuel, $13,300. Section, or not the increase, but the total for the account for this year. That is in sub-account 3801. We are also having to expend money for loader tires, which are not cheap. So that is 3802. You're seeing that increase there, that allotted amount there for those tires. We also have the recycling drop site enclosed container here under other equipment, 8005. And in 8201, the buildings, that's where we've accounted or will be capturing the loan payments for the WPPI loan.
Thank you. Going back to the when we built the new garage, we have a contingency fund. And I think were we under budget on that when we all was said and done? And is any of that money being used for something, or maybe, I don't know if Jennifer can answer that, or if that's from whomever. I mean, do we have some extra funds available that we can use for some of this stuff?
I mean, we only borrowed for the expenditures that we incurred.
Okay,
And then I
but-
do believe Public Works, you did budget a separate amount for some of the amenities inside the building, correct?
But, I mean, go back, because we had, I think, 100,000 or something left over, didn't we? Was
I'd
that
have
used
to
for the
check on
solar?
the exact
Or was that
amount.
used for something else? Just so that we don't forget about that, if there are some dollars there that we can use.
But what Jen is saying is that we had 10.5 million is what we had that included the contingency money. We spent 10.3 million, so we only borrowed 10.3 million.
Right. Well,
That
that's just
200,000 is gone because we never borrowed it.
We just borrowed less than what we intended to. We did come in under budget, but we borrowed less. So we're not at a profit, but unfortunately.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question about your budgeted fuel costs in 3801.
Okay.
And your comfort level using those dollars per gallon, given the volatility of fuel prices right now?
I'm going to let that answer.
We went on the internet and looked at the projected of what they're predicting for next year, and that's what we've always done. When Adam was here, and that's where I kind of got this from. Yeah, we did the same thing as we've always done, and that's how we got that predicted amount of what it was going to be per gallon.
Okay, and what you have here is an increase over last year's budget, correct?
Correct.
Yes, all right, thank you.
And I will point out, our admin assistant at the Public Works facility has been doing cost comparisons, whenever we order fuel. So I know that she's been watching quite closely and saved us some money in our last order by doing so. So we're monitoring and saving what we can. Okay, street equipment, page 270. And I don't know if you want me to itemize each one here. They're all listed out. I've reiterated on the slide here that we're looking at a low bed dump truck, a pickup truck for streets, a mechanical sweeper, low bed dump truck, bucket truck, and then a passenger vehicle would be for community development. Their cars due for replacement. And then the portable lift attachment. I don't know if anybody had any questions on any of these items or wanted me to go into detail on anything listed here. Thad, I'm going to defer to you on this, if you don't mind.
That's going to be our toolcat lift that was pushed out last year for doing our lights on the trestle trail and some of the more areas we couldn't get bigger equipment into. That attaches to our toolcat. So it's like a scissors lift that you could drive around and then it'd go up and down with that.
And I believe this was budgeted for previously but struck last year, so it's being put back in. Okay, we just have the CIP, and I have a brief mention on one of the TIFs, and then that should be the Public Works portion. So Capital Improvements Fund. Now, the dollar amounts that are listed next to each road does include the sidewalk portion and the street portion. So when you're looking at, it's page 303 to 305, my apologies for not stating that right away. But the roads do include both sidewalk and the street portion. Hopefully I have that page correct. So again, the numbers you are seeing there aren't going to be verbatim what is written into the budget book, but I did want you to see the representation of the totality of the streets listed here. So Racine Street, design only, we have been accruing design costs at this point in time for the third to ninth portion. So we're allotting the amount for this. I don't think we're going to probably be expending quite this much. Obviously, we'll only use what we need to with what we're getting with invoices from them. And then Plank Road, they've also begun design for Plank that's planned for 2027. So 8th Street Rehabilitation, De Pere to Appleton, $169,000. Airport Road is a full reconstruction, currently planned from Racine Street to Mayor Street, $780,000. It is shared with Fox Crossing. I believe it was a 65-35 split, give or take. And so we did recently, and Mayor can jump in as well because he's been involved heavily in a lot of these conversations. Fox Crossing wishes us to pursue doing a full reconstruct from Racine to 47 rather than ending it at Mayor. Now, the utility repair is concrete from Mayor to 47, and it's currently rated on our Paiser scale that we just had done this fall, summer, rated a 7. So did want to point that out. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 is great, 1 is poor. So 7 would be good, I would say, of condition on the pavement surface. Now, the patches were done on the other portion from Racine to Mayor in asphalt, and the trenches are settling, so we're seeing some issues there. Fox Crossing's thought behind wanting to do the entire stretch would be that there are likely voids underneath because that section is likely also settling, but rebar is helping hold that concrete in place. Now, again, they want us to pursue this and have requested that we consider doing a full reconstruct for the entirety of Racine to Airport, and I guess we kind of wanted to get your thoughts on this, knee-jerk reactions. So we've been going back and forth and trying to.
I don't know if the council knows the newest proposal.
Alderman Sevenick, I don't know.
I don't want it.
Oh, okay.
When I do
Fair,
that,
fair.
trust me, I know what I'm doing.
Okay.
So we've talked about this quite extensively in-house, and it's my opinion, I think it's engineering's opinion as well, that this is graded 7 to 8. It's in good condition. And if we did want to add an additional 200-ish thousand to our budget, that we would rather add it on some other streets that are not in good condition. This seems to be, we'd like to just be done with this and not have to come back to it 10 years from now. And we internally, the city of Menasha feels that it was repaired in such a way that it is in good shape, and we would recommend not to repair it at this point. Did I capture that okay, Corey?
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, Alderman Rappella.
Thank you, Mayor. Is Fox Crossing going to replace the entire north side of Airport Road? And then, so only our portion from Mayor to 47 is going to be, quote, the older portion of the road, Corey?
So the proposal right now is to replace, and your statement of they have the north side, we have the south side, it's all over the place. It's a
Oh.
puzzle. So, the proposal is, or what our plan is to them, and we have the design more or less done right now, is from Racine to Mayor Street.
Yeah.
That would be the entrance into their park. From Mayor Street to Highway 47, back when they proposed the sewer a number of years ago, we expressed to them that we wanted that put back in concrete, and that's why that section of the road was patched in concrete. There are some panels of concrete that are in poorer condition out there, but I believe that we can go in there and replace those panels less than $20,000 for that whole entire section. We could replace all of those panels.
So are we responsible for both those sides of the street, the Kits and File side, the north side and the
No,
south side?
from Mayor Street to 47 by Kits and File, we have jurisdiction of the north side of the road. Fox Crossings has the south side.
Oh, that's stupid.
From Mayor to Earl De Pere Street, Fox Crossings has the entire jurisdiction. And then from Earl De Pere to just past Geegan School, we have 100%. And then from Geegan School to Racine, it's split 50-50, and we have the north side, they have the south side.
What,
Give or take.
who dreamed up this? I know, but it should have been north side, the Fox Crossing, south side Menasha, but, yeah. I understand. Thank you, Corey.
I agree with you, Mayor, that we have other priorities that are important to this community, and I have no interest. I will do everything possible, along with my colleagues, to not participate in the airport project until we have further cooperation from Fox Crossing.
Thank you, Mayor. What is included in the Racine to Mayor portion? Sidewalks, trails, what kind of amenities are included in that?
At this point, we had some discussion about putting a trail on the north side. But I think we're kind of settling off of that that wouldn't be part of that project. Basically, the project would entail a full reconstruct. We would remove all of the pavement, the base, everything. It would go back in the same location horizontally. We would match the catch basins. We wouldn't be doing any significant utility work. We would put new curb and gutter in and then asphalt pavement on that section of road.
Okay, and it's not a stretch of road that I travel frequently. Is there sidewalk?
On the south side.
Yes.
From 47 to Racine, there is sidewalk on the south side, the whole entire way.
Great, thank you.
We would do a spot, if there's a bad sidewalk section, we would replace it, but it wouldn't be all new.
Thank you.
So basically, this project really can't be done unless it's, they can't patch it. They can't say, okay, to a contract, do this little section here. They would not deal with it. So it has to be a inter-cooperative effort on both our parts. And here's one of those situations where we have continually worked very well, but recently there have been some interpersonal situations with us in the Fox Crossing, and they've made the comment, there's nothing that we'll ever have that we'll need from you in the future anyways. Well, here's one. And they're gonna find more and more, so.
And we should note the problems with that street were caused by them laying new sanitary sewer in it about 2 or 3 years ago. And probably 15 years ago, laying new water in that portion.
Correct.
Still remember Randy calling me complaining about it, and I told him exactly what he just said. It disappears then.
Who's leading the project?
We are.
Okay.
We're doing
And-
the engineering and they're paying for our portion, or
Okay.
their portion of the engineering.
And will the portion that's proposed to be redone be concrete or asphalt?
Asphalt.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So it sounds like Airport Road is at this point, yep, we'll move, yeah. And our portion, so I believe it was 600, Fox Crossing's portion was 600 and some odd thousand. So the full 700 is not all of it, just to point out that I think it's a 65-35 give or take split.
It is roughly a 65-35 split, and then there is also a 10% engineering fee, admin fee on that, the overall cost. So if their bill was 500,000, we would be generating 50,000 in income through our engineering services on that.
Okay, I will move on then to 7th Street, planned to be a rehabilitation from Manitowoc to Melissa. Terrace Avenue and Mission Street are also rehabilitations, kind of the same general area, Earl to Mission and Terrace to Midway. Pleasant Lane. The Terrace and Mission. You know what? You are correct. It's the loop. It's Harding. It's off Harding. That's, yep, it's off of Harding. That's, yep, I'm incorrect with that. So yes, that is basically Harding. It's the entire loop. So I will correct that before this gets posted. Main Street, thank you for pointing that out. Main Street reconstruction would be basically off of the Racine Street Bridge. This would be done over that sanitary repair then as well. And then this will include some lighting, just because of the curb and gutter work we have to do in the proximity of the lighting to that. We're planning on expending some electric, I don't want to say funds, it's all going to be out of the same borrowing here, but there will be some electric work with that project. Midway Road Sidewalk, this is a carryover from last year. I believe we may have some land acquisition that we need to, or easements that we need to pursue before we can do this, I believe. But this is a carryover from last year, the same amount.
Is there a reason why we didn't do that portion of Harding along with Pleasant?
Yes.
Did it have to do with getting in and out and for the residents? So one year it'll be Pleasant Lane, the next maybe Harding?
Correct. So yes, there is a twofold. You don't want to do Harding and beat up Harding before you do Pleasant, because you need to go through Harding to get to Pleasant. So sequencing wise, yes, Pleasant makes sense to do first.
Okay.
The other issue is that Menasha Utilities has an extensive amount of water work on Harding, and they don't on Pleasant. They had to look at some cost adjustments from their budget, so that was the reason for doing it this way, is they just have a few spot repairs on Pleasant. Harding was a full relay.
Okay.
So there's a twofold reason there. But I believe if you look in our plan at the CIP portion, we do have Harding in 2023. We just flip-flopped. We traditionally do $30,000 in the Sidewalk Replacement program, planning on maintaining that. And some of the other projects I pointed out earlier with the signals was the audible system installs. So this is where that is coming up. We previously spoke about that. Traffic camera system, police, I think they did an extensive presentation on this for you. This would be starting and kind of planting that seed money to do the intersection, or the initial infrastructure and the intersection at 3rd and Racine. So that's where this is coming from. And then LED streetlight upgrades, $100,000 is put in here, but that number, and Don can probably give a lot more information than I can on this, that number could vary greatly depending upon what we look at doing. But this is for the lighting east of Oneida.
So Menasha Utilities would like us to upgrade those lights. They're probably 20-ish years old in a lot of cases, and they're all high-pressure sodium lights. These would provide some fairly significant savings in some areas and not a very good return on investment in other areas. I think to replace all of them was in the
$200 range.
$200,000 range. This would be funded through the WPPI 0% interest loan, the same one that we used for the solar at Public Works. So it may be a little more, a little less than that, but it would all be funded out of that program.
We're planning to have some meetings and sit-downs with WPPI and to figure out kind of where we want to settle in at with this number. And finally, TIF District 11, pages 317 and 318, and I imagine Sam probably already went over a lot of this, but I just wanted to point out that we're going to be expending a fair amount of, our time in Public Works to helping out with the future Oak Street extension. So obviously, we're hiring out for design. We're not doing it in-house, but there's going to be a lot of coordination that will occur on that. So we are in the process right now of assembling a request for proposal for engineering services. And hopefully, we get to see that move forward and come to fruition. But I just wanted to point it out here that we will have involvement in that as well.
So we are applying for a grant tomorrow for the Lawson Canal project as well. That bridge would be used as the match for the Lawson Canal project in that grant. That grant doesn't require a match, but it gives you a much greater chance of obtaining the grant if you show a match, as well as we can show that there's economic development that goes with that project as well. And Sam projects about $35 million in economic development around the bridge, excluding the current Bonta project that's going on, so just on the vacant parcels of Gilbert and Bonta.
Any additional questions or comments for us?
That picture looks familiar.
Yeah. I
that the one
actually,
that-
I took that one.
Oh, was it? The ones I used, Tom took.
Well, thank you very much.
Alderman Grady.
Yep, just a quick recap of this Public Works budget. I think it's a tremendous job that you've done with short time that you've been in there, but you got some excellent support within your
Absolutely.
department. Three of the individuals are here tonight, but to come in the general fund, 5% less than what you budgeted last year, that's commendable, and I appreciate really looking at the numbers and really looking to save taxpayers some money.
Thank you.
The mic on. But isn't it amazing that we're sitting here, and all of us were sitting here a few years ago thinking, is this thing ever going to get done, or is this going to happen? And it's done. Isn't that amazing how time flies?
I think there were some wagers amongst city employees that it would not happen, that were lost. So,